Hey, I'm Mark,
And I'm Chris.
and we're the Leftovers.
No, we're not.
Yes, we are.
I did not agree to that.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, Mark.
What's going on?
Allergies.
Oh, that's not fun.
No, it is not.
Welcome to Living in the South.
I think that's everywhere,
I do too.
everywhere where the
Everywhere.
seasons change,
Which is everywhere.
except for California and Florida.
Yeah.
There, it's just always hot and humid. Except for California, it's just hot.
I like hot and humid or just hot. You know why?
Why?
I just do.
I'd rather have hot than
Yeah.
humid.
I bet.
Humidity, I hate it. does wonders to my hair.
You know what we're going to talk about today, Chris? Any idea?
I do,
Any
because
idea?
I was the
Any
one who
idea?
came up with
Any
the topic.
idea? What is it?
Time management.
Time management.
And how we can use our time better.
That is exactly what we're talking about.
Yes, I know.
But before we get started, we're going to ask you guys something. If you would, share our podcast on any social media you can. That is The Leftovers, Chris and Mark, or how you want to put it. Share it, and share it.
Back to your regularly scheduled program.
Time, what, Chris? Management. You didn't say anything. You okay? Is your microphone on? Turn it on.
It is on, but
Turn it
I'm
on,
just-
Chris.
do we manage our time very well?
That's what we're going to ask ourselves.
Well, I'm talking about just today, right now, because
Yes.
we had talked about starting this about 30 minutes ago.
Well, that's your fault.
It's both of our faults, because you didn't stop me.
It's your fault.
You were a
I
part-
didn't stop you. Officer, it was your fault I was drinking and driving because you didn't stop me. Oh, wait. a
No.
minute. You just stopped me. Exactly. I just stopped you.
But you didn't stop me 30 minutes ago.
I didn't. I was working on a Kit Kat.
Well, even after the 2 seconds it took for you to inhale that Kit Kat,
That's a problem I have. Eating too fast.
my problem is eating too much.
I have that too. Glutton, I think they call it. I'm a glutton for
Punishment.
glutton for punishment. All right, Chris. Time management
Time management.
is the process of organizing and planning how to divide your time between activities. This was the definition I got from your favorite, Google. Google said this is a definition for it. Google also said that if you get this right, that you will end up working smarter, not harder. Yeah, smarter, not harder.
Smarter, not harder.
To get more accomplished in less time, even when time is tight and pressures are high. It says here on Google, not me, the highest achievers manage their time exceptionally well. This was a Google answer on time management. What about that, Chris?
You have too many caveats that go in there.
Huh? I know.
This is
That's-
from Google. This is from.
Well, I didn't want to take all the credit. Wasn't me. I looked it up.
The one time you say it,
I worded it like I was saying it, but that's what I read.
yes, the majority of people, when they work smarter and not harder, usually get more things done in a quicker fashion. But does that always go towards getting the best quality?
Yes.
Because that's the thing about managing your time, is you're not just managing it to save. You're not just managing it to save the most amount of time, but it's also the amount of time it takes to do something qualitative.
Qualitative. You get that toilet paper out again. I've never heard that word, Chris. Would you say it again? Koala-tative? Koala bear-tative? What are you looking at me for? I'm turning the other way.
Thank you.
I don't know what that. I've never heard that word before. Is it real?
It is a real word. Whether or not I used it correctly,
I like it. I want to use it.
Whether or not I used it
Is it
correctly,
koala or just koala?
like quality,
Quality?
quality.
Koala. Speaking of koalas, 9 hours not 9. I'm sorry. 90% of their life they sleep. You know that? While I was doing this study, I found that
You were not managing your time very well.
rabbit hole. Koalas sleep 90% of their life.
Is it a good?
No.
Is it a good managing of time to listen to our podcast?
Yes, my goodness, you could learn so much from this deal. Y'all just give us, a little bit of your time, listen to what we're saying.
Let us go on a few tangents. We'll get there at some
Just
point.
a couple of rants. Yeah, Chris. You ever watch a football game, Chris?
Yes.
Once in a while, and it comes down to the last minute and a half, and to run the clock out, the team needs to go virtually run the ball 3 downs, and the game's over. Yet, the coach is smarter than time. So he decides on first down to pass the ball. Incomplete. You know what that does, Chris?
Stops the clock.
Stops time in the game. Now, he's messed up the whole game and the clock. So he's going to have the quarterback run around on fourth down and hopefully run out the clock. All because a decision made was not good. Now, I use that analogy to say this. This is kind of like our lives. The football game kind of resembles our lives. If we use our time correctly, we usually have good things come our way. Usually. Not all the time. Not 100%. A lot of the times.
We're never guaranteed good things.
No, we're just shooting for the high percentages of things. If our time is managed poorly, then we usually make the same decisions. They're poor. Example. I have an example. That if we go to sleep super late the day before we have to go to work, and we have to get up early the next morning. The next morning comes, and we've had 3 hours sleep, and we feel what? I know what I don't feel like. Terrible.
Just terrible.
Terrible. Charles Barkley said. Terrible. And we feel terrible. So the next day, you pay for the poor time. What, Chris? Management. That involves drowsy, woozy, mean, hateful people because you made a terrible decision.
What if people are like that even though they went to bed and had a full 8 hours?
Well, I was going to go the other way with that, but okay. I was going to say, what if people are just great if they get 3 hours sleep? There's not many people out there like that, but as I was doing my study, there was a couple of guys that I recognized their names that only get like 3 or 4 hours of sleep a night. And they are, quote unquote, quote unquote, I'm quote unquoting something I can't remember. Achievers, high achievers.
Like a lot of businessmen that are very successful, that's usually the way it goes, is they usually get 3-4 hours of sleep. Mm-hmm. Vince McMahon, I hear from all the wrestlers that know him talk about how he gets 3 or 4 hours of sleep a night on nights that there's WWE programming.
3 hours sleep. Can't imagine.
Well, I mean, it's because, so he wakes up at like 5 or 6. He's in meetings all day trying to make sure that the production's going to go good. And then, I mean, that's literally all day up until time for the show. Then he's the director and producer on the show, so he's got to make sure everything goes smoothly. And then after that, after that show ends, he has to make sure that everything is getting ready and going to be on the way to the next place that they're supposed to be. Make sure that all of the social media stuff's done with. And then at some point, with how ripped he is, he has to have a workout. So he'll work out at like 1 or 2 in the morning.
Yeah, I know that feeling. Not.
And then, I mean, he gets to sleep for like 2 or 3 hours, or 3 or 4, and then he gets up and does it all over again.
Habits, you know, we get into habits. We've talked about that before. We usually try to head toward the easy or something that we know.
Most people do.
Yeah,
but that's the average.
You try
person.
to stop those habits, boy. That's rough. You know, if you eat a Kit Kat like I did before the show, you got a Kit Kat every day for 3 months, and then the next day you didn't have a Kit Kat, and then the next day you didn't have Kit Kat. Your body's going to be saying, "Hey, where's my Kit Kat? I'm going to give you a headache."
I mean, that's withdrawals.
Where's the Kit Kat?
I mean, that's like people who are trying to lose weight, they're so used to eating all this food for so long every day, eating the same foods or even different foods, but the same amounts, which keep them the size they are.
Salting their chips.
Are you ever going to get over that? There's nothing wrong.
Well, the last guy that did that at my experience at a Mexican restaurant is still hearing about it today. It's probably 20 years ago. He's still hearing about it. Was not happy about salt on my chips.
You're just mad because I did that today.
I don't like salt on my chips.
There's something wrong with you, though.
Hey, tomato.
No, that's not even tomato.
What is it, Chris?
It's like cucumber tomato.
Oh, here he goes again.
Veggie Tales.
Here he goes again. Oh, let's see, Chris. Where we at?
I don't know. We went off on a tangent.
In your life, usually having good habits. Okay. Good habits come with practice. Time. What, Chris?
Management.
Management.
Why do I feel like I'm in the crowd?
You're in the crowd. Good habits come with good practice, such as eating healthy, which I don't. This is a good habit we can get into. And once it's established, it's very hard to get sidetracked. Like eating that Kit Kat every day.
Yep.
You eat a Kit Kat every day, well, your body's going to want it. If you get rid of the Kit Kat, then your body's still going to want it.
Even there are people that, well, we're going off on another tangent. Okay. It's we're talking about like habits. People that smoke or used to smoke still have that problem of that want of a cigarette. It might have been 20 years ago that they quit, but they still have that feeling of wanting a cigarette or a dip. Or
if we show up to a family function late, we usually have an excuse. The dog had to be fed, the children were crying, car was cold, car was hot.
I just say it's a family trait.
Family trait. Yeah. Excuse making is not a good habit. Just own the situation. Say it's my fault. I'll improve next time. And if we try to improve upon those things and try to have good habits, usually will work for us. So if we own things. All right, so you show up to a family function and you're 20 minutes late and everybody else is there. So do you say, is it on purpose? That's the first question. Do you like to make a grand entrance? A lot of people do. And, I'm here. Now the party can start. Some people are that way. Some people like to be there super early. Now, that's almost the same thing. I know, sounds crazy. You think if somebody's super early, do they have good intention? Hold on. I know, rabbit hole. So, if you show up super early to everything you go to, the only reason you're doing that, not so much for a grand entrance like the other example we had, but you're trying to get there before everyone else to see them come in. And that in itself could be dangerous. Are you using your time correctly? Maybe you leave like super early and you get there an hour early, whereas you could have spent some more time with the dog that was hungry. You could have warmed up the car because it was cold, cooled the car down because it was hot. All those examples I gave before. You possibly are getting out of your things that you ought to be doing, and you want to get there quick to be the first one. That's almost like a grand entrance person. It's just, it looks better.
Before everyone's there, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I was going to say that's not really a time management thing. That's more of a...
Oh, yeah? Well, we're going to tie it in with this show.
But
we're going to call it time management.
But the more that's what I was trying to say there is.
So if you show up late, do you leave late?
I do, yeah.
What if you show up late and leave early? You didn't want to be there in the first place.
No.
There's some time management.
No, but
why would you go to something you didn't want to be to in the first place?
Because you have to.
There ain't a lot of things in life you have to do. You realize that?
Technically, you don't have to do anything.
That's what I'm getting at.
But it's just a matter of who do you want to make mad? Who do you want to keep happy?
Is it worth it? If you do it enough times, they won't get mad anymore.
Yeah, they'll just leave.
All right, Chris, let's get back on the subject.
I don't want to get back. I was wanting to talk about that.
Our time, I think, our skills of handling our time starts every morning. Every morning is brand new. And as we arise, we have an opportunity. When the alarm clock goes off, we have an opportunity.
To hit snooze.
Do we hit the snooze once? Question mark. Do we hit the snooze twice? Question mark.
Do we hit it 6 times?
Maybe 3 or 4 times? Question mark. But realistically, if we have set our time clock, our alarm clock, according to when we need to get up, when it sounds, we should arise. There's no need for lots of alarm clocks, lots of snooze butting. What? What?
Snooze button hitting.
Button hitting. Multiple people yelling us to get up. Good time skills will allow you to get up when your alarm clock goes off. Now,
but
I
there
wanna say-
there
what-
is
what-
just...
what- when I was younger, I had a very hard time getting up. And when I got into the workforce, guess what? It was still hard to get up. And so I took that with me for years, and I kind of wore it like an honor badge. Like, look at me, I'm hard to get up, blah, blah, blah. It's not. It's not honor at all. It's actually, when I look back when I was 20 years old, I look at that now as laziness. Because today, not 20 years old, when that alarm clock goes off, nowadays I may hit my snooze once, I may hit it twice. I ought not hit it at all. When that clock goes off, I think that's kind of like, okay, you set the clock. If you need to set it earlier, set it earlier. If you need to set it later, set it later. But when that clock goes off, I need to be out of the bed. Sleeping time's over. I heard a study the other day that said once you hit the snooze button, you're not actually asleep. Now, I disagreed with them because I could go to sleep on a car heading down the road. I'm talking about on the hood of the car. I could go to sleep on it while it's driving down the road. They said when you hit the snooze button, you're not actually asleep until you get out of that bed. You never really went back to sleep. I don't agree with that. I think you do. But you shouldn't even have a snooze button. Alarm clock goes off, on the floor. That's good time.
I'm not agreeing with that.
Well, I'm just saying.
What?
That's good skills.
That's what you believe is good
That's
skills.
using, yeah, I believe that wholeheartedly. And I can't necessarily live exactly by that. I try. But I've been known to snooze until the thing just went off. It just wasn't snoozing no more. I think I've got like 8 snooze on my clock. After that, it just says, I'm shutting down. You're not getting any more. And then when it goes off, the next thing I know, the sun's coming up. Mm-hmm. And then I'm running late, and it's just not fun. It's not fun to be behind the 8 ball as soon as you leave the house or as soon as you get out of the bed. I like to be in front of it. Just a little bit.
What if you have that snooze to wake you up so that you can sit there and take your time to not you use a snooze to wake you up so that you can get your mind going for the day, not necessarily your body for the day.
I used to say the same thing. I agreed with that 100%, but I don't anymore.
Okay. I'm not that person that, I mean, I probably should be that person, but I'm not. But
you admit you could be that person.
It would take some work at it, yes. Because, I mean, that was always my thing is if I didn't have to be somewhere and I knew how long it was going to... I remember my first job, I had to be there at 9 o'clock. It took me 20 minutes to get there. So I would wake up at
You had to be there at what time?
9.
In the morning?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm ready to hear this. What time you have to get up?
It'd take me 20 minutes
20
to get
minutes.
there.
Okay, we'll mark that off.
I would-
8:40 at the latest.
I would wake up at 8:35. and,
Okay.
And I would be there at 9 o'clock ready to clock in.
Yeah. Well, I can't say anything because that's always been me until later in life. And I think at your old job, you had to be there at 9.
9.
I think get there at 8:30, and then you have a half hour to think about the day, what you got to do. I used to look at that like that's wasted time. What am I going to do here for 30 minutes? Why don't I just show up at 9 o'clock and get going? But now, a little bit older, a little bit wiser, I think that shows your employer I care, and I think that matters.
See, I don't see that. A lot of times getting there so early doesn't.
I'm just going to give it a half hour. I'm not going to say like an hour or something. But
Well, I consider even 30 minutes so early, unless you have a lot of stuff that.
But it's a half hour. I mean,
Yeah.
you spend longer than that on a number 2.
No, I haven't.
I said you could. I didn't say you do.
I'm pretty
And
sure
not-
you said I did.
No,
I can go
I
back
said
on here and listen
you
to it.
could spend more than a half hour on a number 2. Not necessarily you, just generally people could spend longer than half hour on a 2. But anyway, let's get off of that. Let's talk about our time management.
Well, this is about
Yeah,
time
I know.
management.
Yeah, but let's get out of the bathroom.
Well, if we'd have to move the computer and all that to get out of the bathroom.
It's only one plug.
But I don't really see how getting somewhere 30 minutes, unless you're behind and you've got a lot of stuff to do.
I think it shows the employer that you care. I think. What I think.
But there again, looking at that situation though,
But even whether they see it or not, it's good for you, the employee, to not always get behind. You know.
No, I'm not saying it's good to get behind, but at the same time, though, they're going with your time management. It's working smarter and not harder. So if, say you're at a job and
Let's say that, Chris. You're at a job.
You're at a job and
I
you
just
are
said
at the
it. Now what?
You're at the pinnacle of where you're going to be.
You don't know that.
There's a lot of places where.
You never know.
Okay, say you're McDonald's and you're a manager, and
Maybe McDonald's decides to now we're not just going to have one manager, we're going to have super manager. You could turn into super manager. But you don't know that's coming. You just have to work like it's coming. See? It's not necessarily for them, it's for you. See?
no,
Yeah. Well, I mean, all right. So, Coswell Cogs, we're employees of, and we're now up to 103. But you think you have just got to the top of Coswell Cogs. You have put all the cogs in the boxes you possibly could, and this is all you're ever going to do. Well, one day, Coswell may balloon up to 1,000 employees, and you could be the super manager of Coswell Cogs of whatever they do.
do I get a cape?
Well, if you're super manager, you probably could wear one. And so, how fun would that be? Showing up to work with a cape
I
on,
want a cape.
with SM on the back of it.
Oh, super manager. Okay.
ART.
What if I just have the cape? It doesn't have to have any letters on it. I'm
Let's
just gonna
go.
wear the cape.
Generic cape. Okay. Not many superheroes had generic capes. But
Superman did.
his-
Batman did.
His S was on the front though.
Yeah.
All right, Chris. My next question to go with our show, managing our time, is this: is time real?
Yes.
This is a question that I've asked myself a few times over the past few years. As I did a little research, I find, Carlo Rovelli, theoretical physicist, made the statement, time is an illusion. Our naive perception of its flow does not correspond to physical reality. So, Ask yourself this question. If it was you and the universe, just you, no one else exists, of course you would not look at a clock. Why would you? You probably would pay attention to the sun because you want to know when not to get sunburned. And
Or when the nocturnal animals are going to be coming out.
Well, I said it was just you. There could or could not be animals. I'm not sure about that one.
Well, to survive,
It's my story.
I would have
my
to have
story.
meat.
My story.
No,
No,
it's
you're
your
just going to live on plants.
It's your question.
You're living on plants.
No.
But I'm giving you a scenario. So the scenario has to be you and the universe. So would time exist in that scenario?
Yes. Maybe not to the extent that
Oh,
we have it today.
wait a minute. You're making it an extent. How's it an extent? So
What I'm
time is less powerful with less people?
No, it is the milliseconds, seconds, minutes become less important as the fewer people there are,
What makes them important right now?
because there are so many people that rely on certain things to be done at a very specific time. So it's like with TV
Those
shows.
specific things would still be important even if you didn't have milliseconds, seconds, minutes, hours. They would still be important.
Okay, we'll go with a TV show. A TV show with all the commercials and everything runs on a very specific schedule. I was listening to a podcast. Someone that had one of the producers and one of the directors from the show Breaking Bad on it, and they would talk about how they would have so much footage that had to be cut down to a very specific set of time, down to the seconds.
Okay, that's Hollywood stuff. We're talking about everyday life.
But that's everyday life to them. The TV production is they have to have that stuff down to a very specific second, so that they can put the commercials in there, and that it can run on the time it's supposed to.
Television is the ultimate one that would agree. Time is a thing, and time is money, and time matters. Time is a thing. You better believe time is a thing.
Your employer
asking
would
you.
think the same way.
I'm asking you as a human being on this earth, is time a real thing?
And I said yes.
And besides Hollywood, and besides quota meeting, and besides working and got to meet this deadline because of time, saying, imagine your life without Coswell Cogs, without.
Well, I'm gonna go with the example that you had me think about earlier. If it was only me in the world
Universe,
today, and the universe, would time be important? And I said yes, but it would not be to the extent that we had today. If it was just me, and as you said, there's no animals, so I don't have to worry about.
Well, I'm not sure about that. I'm still working on it. You may
Okay.
have to have a squirrel or two.
If there's no animals, and so I don't have to worry about predators, all I have to worry about is what plant I'm going to be able to eat, whether it's poisonous or not.
Coconuts.
Okay, if all I eat is coconuts,
Gilligan's Island did. And they didn't use
then
a clock on Gilligan's Island, I don't think.
there again, they didn't have to use a clock.
Exactly. That's
But-
my point.
That's my point. Time is still important because
But it doesn't exist in that situation.
But it does though.
Does it?
Yes, because the time.
How?
Okay, it's an extent of how long is the day going to last.
Sun up to sundown. Simple.
Okay, how much time is that?
Doesn't matter.
It does though, because
But it does.
if you have something that you're getting done, you need to know a form of, I guess you could,
just watch the sun. When it goes down, you're out of light.
which is time. If you have to have something that's done today,
But you wouldn't.
how do you know?
I made this up. So I can. You'll never have a task that has to be done in one day. And if it does, guess what? You do it in the dark. Light a fire and do it in the dark.
Time is still there.
Is it?
Yes.
Just a question.
I mean, time of year, depending on where you are, how many up and downs of the sun goes that.
I like that better. Up and downs of the sun. I like that way better.
Rising and setting of the sun.
No, let's say up and downs of the suns from now on. We're not saying days anymore. Chris, how many up and downs of the sun is it going to be until our next podcast?
I quit. Goodbye. I'm no longer here.
That. No, I'm being dead serious. You don't take me serious sometimes. How many up and downs?
It's hard to take you serious sometimes.
I love that. Hey, Chris, how many up and downs of the sun is it going to be till Christmas?
But in that point, what I was talking about there is you have to realize how long is it going to be until the weather changes? How many days of summer are there? How many days of winter are there? How many days of fall?
But it doesn't really matter.
But it does, because you have to know these things to know how you're going to plant your food.
But you're going to do it anyway. You're going to become wise.
You plant the wrong food in the wrong season, it's not going to grow. You need to know what season it is.
You would figure out when it dies just to do it at a different time.
But that could be your food, whereas you need to know what time of year it is. Time of year, whether it's summer, fall,
but you're using
winter.
A whole different concept there.
Not really. It's still time
of year.
It's still time.
Is it a real thing? Question mark.
No, there's no question mark. It is a real thing.
No, it's a question. That's what I was saying.
It's a question, and I'm putting a period. Yes.
Is time real? Question mark. There you go.
Yes, it is. Period. Do we want to keep fighting over this?
No, it was just a question. It wasn't nothing to argue about. It wasn't really right or wrong or indifferent. I believe we put a lot of pressures on ourselves concerning time. As far as us believing humans will live 75 years, if we didn't know that, would we not strive for 75, or would we try or just live? We wouldn't worry about, majority of people live to 75 years old. That's what the Bible says, 70 and 5 years.
Well, I think a lot of people worry about...
Do you think that's in our minds to live 75? Or do you think that that's just physically how that's going to work out? I don't know. I wonder. Because we don't know. There's no way we will know that.
On average, that's the average of...
But I wonder if because it's here, that it winds up here. I don't know.
That's a probable thing, because you hear about all the time of elderly people, whenever they have their spouse of 30, 40, 50 years passes away, the likelihood of that the other spouse passing away within 6 months is very likely. And that's
because why?
It's in their head that I don't want to live anymore. What's the point in me taking care of myself? This person's no longer in my life.
The other half of me just died.
Yeah.
So if we didn't think about retirement age as 62, 65, 67, would we ever strive for those numbers in our age? Would that be something we would be looking forward to if, now we're ingrained to think, hey, that's retirement age, 62, 65, 67. Boy, I'm striving for that, and you've worked your whole life. And boy, when I get to that number, hey, it's on.
Why is retirement age put there?
Well, that's when Social Security kicks in, and you get some free health insurance and things you've worked your whole life for.
Yes, but why?
I have
why
a
were
way better idea for that? But,
why were those ages picked?
Because you're close to death. I'm assuming.
Yes, those were the ages that. 62 or whatever.
62 to 67.
Well, 62 was an age picked because, life expectancy was 65. So, we can pay for these people to have health care and get their drugs for 2 or 3 years. Mm-hmm. But now we've gotten to the point where life expectancy has risen to 75. So now, on average...
But it always said that in the Bible, 75. It was always there.
Well, you had Methuselah, who was... living till...
I think the time was a little different then. That's just me.
How was time different then than it is today?
Not sure, Chris. Not sure.
You should know. You're the one that said it.
Would we ever strive for those ages if there was no such thing at the end of that thing as retirement? If we didn't think about 18 as an age that we now think about, 18, I'm an adult. 18, I'm an adult. I can do things now I couldn't do at 17.
But are you really an adult at 18?
That's what they label us as. No, I don't think so, but that's what they label us as. At 21, now I can do certain things. At 30 years old, I should be married. I should be having children or trying to in the first place. These are numbers that we strive for some reason. If these things were never implanted in our minds, Chris, what would our concept of time look like? Would we live longer? Would we not live longer?
I mean, when you don't have a goal, or if you don't have a goal for something, then usually things don't work all that well.
Right. And what are we talking about today?
Time management.
Mm-hmm. Kind of a goal. Time.
Well, you're
goal.
you're managing your time to get to that goal, and so.
Or is it working on you versus you working on time? Is it working on you? Like, are you slave to the clock? You know what I'm saying? Like, if I haven't done this, and this by 8 o'clock in the morning, my day's just shot. I've got to have this done by 8 o'clock. Why is that a thing? Why should you have this, that, and the other accomplished by 8 o'clock?
Because those are the artificial goals that you or somebody else has set for yourself.
What if you didn't have those? What if they never existed? What would life look like? Look a little different, wouldn't it? I think it would.
I mean, it's possible, but we won't know.
No.
It's very subjective.
I still have those goals in my mind every day. If I'm not out of the bed by 4:45, my day is just shot. Got to be. And it's ridiculous. Not gonna be any different if I slept till 7 o'clock at night. I'd really be.
Well, it would be different because
that day would be. But if
any
that
day
was
would be.
That's a rabbit hole.
Well, because
That's a rabbit hole.
if it's a regular day that you had planned on, that you had this stuff you needed to get
82 or wanted to.
I mean, there could be two different things. Mm-hmm. If it's a need because you need to make money to
pay your bills,
take care of your family.
You know why I work, Chris?
So that you can buy a laptop.
To pay bills.
Yeah, that's what everybody does.
I would like to have a laptop, though. Subliminal message, if anybody wants to send me some money, 330-64.
Why would your phone number be able to send you money?
Well, I could redirect their money to my account. Chris, there was a movie in the 1980s.
There's a lot of movies in the 1980s.
There were some good ones. 1985 had a really good one. Marty! DeLorean. Traveling in time.
Blast from the Past.
Nope.
Back to the Future.
That was a good one, though. I did like that one.
Brendan Fraser.
Huh?
That was in the 90s.
All right, let's get to where we're at. DeLorean. Traveling in time. You remember the dog's name in the movie?
In all honesty, I've never actually watched the movies.
Back to the Future you've never seen?
Not actually sat down and
2
watched.
and 3, I'll give you a pass on.
I know of parts of the movies.
Back to the Future 1, you've never watched straight through.
No.
Would you please do me a favor right here on this podcast and promise me between now and Christmas you will watch the full movie?
I can't make that promise.
That is a great movie, Chris.
Okay.
And
it wasn't until last week that I saw Nightmare Before Christmas for the first time.
Okay. We're in two totally different areas right now.
Nightmare Before Christmas is supposed to be a classic movie.
Not Back to the Future.
No, it's not, but more people.
So when I said, Marty, you didn't know what I was talking about.
I did because I've seen parts of it. I haven't seen it all the way through.
You remember the dog's name?
No.
Einstein. You know something about Albert Einstein that you're fixing to learn?
He was an atheist.
Yeah, that ain't what I was going to tell you.
He didn't
smart
believe in
man.
time.
Would you say he was a smart man? He said there was for sure time. Time for sure existed. But Albert Einstein slept 10 hours a day and took naps. I like naps.
Me
You like
too.
naps? I like naps. Naps can turn into sleeps, though, real easy.
Oh, yeah.
What's your idea of a nap?
No more than 2 hours.
Oh, that's almost asleep to me. So 20 minutes. To me, that 20 minutes is a nap. Anything over an hour, like 61 minutes, is now asleep.
Asleep to me is anything where you can hit REM sleep.
Yeah, I don't know what any of that is.
REM sleep is like the real deep sleep.
Is that anything like... No, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it. REM sleep is real what, Chris?
REM sleep is the real deep sleep that your body gets most of the what is it called?
REM.
No.
RAM.
Where your body recovers.
From recovery?
Yes. That was a hard word to think of.
Recovery? You just said recover. Same thing.
REM sleep is where your body gets most of the recovery time when you sleep.
You can't recover in 20 minutes. You're going to recover something in 20 minutes.
But for your body, you losing that consciousness, that being...
You lose consciousness when you sleep?
Yes.
Back to the Future. So, in the movie, although you hadn't watched it straight through, sorry, there's something that's prevalent all through the movie. Time. Traveling in, traveling to, traveling from. So in the very first movie, they traveled from 1985 to 1955. 30 years. 30 years of travel. Now, to me, time between, because I remember 1985, I was alive in it. And I can say the difference in 1985 and 1955 was tremendous difference in time. But 2023, subtract 30 years,
1995.
is not a whole lot different.
I differ.
It's okay. You can. It's some, but it's nowhere near the difference from 1955 to 1985. Why is that? Why has time somewhat stayed the same in recent years?
I don't think time is the thing that's changed.
People have, but the name of the show, you know.
What?
You follow me, Chris?
No. I'm completely lost with what you just said.
Back to the Future,
I understood.
1955. Do you think that's possible, traveling in time?
No, I don't.
Why?
Scratch that. We're traveling in time all the time.
Forward.
We're always moving forward. I don't believe we can go back.
Go backward. And again, why would you?
To fix mistakes.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up, Chris.
Oh, goodness.
Why would you return to something, a loved one, a mistake, as you said, maybe an auto accident, like running into a pole and getting out and falling on the ground? Why would you go back and change any of that?
Because you've learned from the mistake and you
Yes.
would like to make that mistake not be there anymore.
But you couldn't learn from it if it wasn't there.
But if you're going back in time, you've already been through it, so you've already learned from it.
But you won't remember it, because when you return in time, you're just going to be the old you, but you're just not going to make the mistake. You're not going to run into the pole.
How do you know that?
Scenario.
If you just go back in time with the same...
Since you said it couldn't happen in the first place.
Well, I'm ruining your scenario. If you go back in time with the same memory you had back then, you're still going to make that same mistake. The whole point in going back in time
To change it.
is to change it. So you would have to have that memory of changing it.
But as we learned from Doc, Back to the Future, I learned, because you didn't watch it.
That you're not supposed to make out with your mom in the past.
You know that part. No, if you go back and try to change the past, you're going to mess up the now. And who wants to mess up the now?
But who's to say the now that's changed is worse.
I did.
Who's to say it could be better?
Could be. It was in Back to the Future, by the way. He did improve it.
He did improve it.
Did improve it.
So there again, you could improve.
It's a movie, Chris. It's not real.
I know it's not real. You're the one giving me the hypotheticals.
I know. I'm talking about using our time properly. But who's to say we don't use them properly? We don't use our time properly. Who says that? Who tells
We
us
do.
that? We do. Ourselves or others? And, you know, do we only listen to people that we trust and we love and we believe and, we, you know, all those things?
No.
Or do we listen to people we can't stand? We let people we can't stand run our lives a lot of times. Why?
I don't know.
Where did they get the merit at? Where did they get the badge that says I can run your life and I don't even like you?
Your own brain.
Where does that happen? Are we trying to live our lives to appease people we don't even like? That's a shame when you stop to think about that. That's not using your time correctly.
But who allows those people to have that spot in your mind?
Self. But why is that a character flaw? What is that?
It's a character flaw, yeah.
Has to be. So just because seeing the sun go up and go down and go up and go down, and just because it's spring or just because it's winter or just because it's fall or just because it's my favorite season, summer.
My favorite's winter.
Yours is winter? Oh my goodness. I'm sorry for you.
I love it cold.
You know what they say? Chocolate and vanilla. Does this prove there's such thing as time? Or does this just prove that we have seasons? Rotation of the earth, if you will. These things are going to happen over and over and over and over. Regardless if we acknowledge that it's 24 hours, or we have a new word for it, or we call it whatever we want to call, these things were just going to happen.
Who's to say they would happen?
Didn't. Just a scenario.
You literally just said
Hypothetical.
a lot of
Yeah,
today has been
they may
hypotheticals.
not happen. But from what we've lived to this point, they have happened.
Yep. Work smarter, not harder.
That's what it says. So as I was reading the quote unquote high achievers, as I mentioned earlier, you know, I would think, like you had said, high achievers, if you will, would sleep less and work more. But not necessarily so. Like I said, Albert Einstein slept 10 hours a night or a day and had naps. Whereas there's others that I read about, Kobe Bryant slept for 4 hours a day and went straight to the NBA from high school. That's a pretty high achiever.
Yep.
So, you know, we all are different, and we can understand that, believe that, and love one another for that. But I was studying on what we've learned about time in the Bible. You know what the Bible says about time, Chris?
Can't think of any. I can't think of it off the top of my head for some reason.
I didn't write it down. See, that's where I'm at. I was very tired when I done this study last night.
I mean, we can't worry about what is to come.
Yes, for sure on that. We shouldn't worry in the first place.
We shouldn't worry.
But eternity, timeless, I like that. I like the idea of that. I believe that. And when you think about eternity,
that's hard to think about.
When does that eternity start?
At the very beginning.
No. When did your eternity start? When did my eternity start?
In the beginning.
Did it start the day you were born or the day you die?
In the beginning.
Come on now.
I can't give you an answer.
In the beginning of your life, the beginning of the world, the beginning of the beginning.
Who am I to say when time started?
Just you. You can say. You can have an opinion.
I can have an opinion, but it doesn't mean it's right.
No. We didn't go into the show saying, hey, everything we say is right.
I thought that was the very first words you ever said in this podcast.
Might have been.
Everything you say is right and everything I say is wrong.
No, I didn't put it that way. I think it was more like everything I say is right, everything he says is not right.
Is that not literally the exact same thing I just said, but in different words?
Different words, so it's not exactly the same. Of
Oh,
course, I joke.
The original name for this podcast, "You Have the Right to Be Wrong."
Mm-hmm. You wanted to use that.
No, I didn't. That was you. I wanted to call us tangents because we do go off on a lot of tangents.
So, Chris, do you feel like you use your time correctly? Good.
Not always, no.
Some?
There are times where I feel like
Where's an example of using your time well, managing your time correctly?
well, now you're getting me off my head.
Got you to thinking about it. Yeah, that's good, Chris. Never.
It's not
give
never. It's just it
give out
doesn't happen so much that I can't think. It happens so much I just can't think of
That's what
a
it
time
is.
to pick.
Way too many times are you using your time correctly. Remember when you were in school a couple of years back?
Over a decade
And
ago.
everything we did in school was on a clock. You know, you're in this class for so many minutes, you're out. You're going in the hall, you only got so many minutes to get to the next class. You're in a class, boom, 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 boom. Everything's scheduled. Everything is on the clock. When you get out, we used to get out at 3 o'clock. I don't know what time kids get out nowadays. We got out at 3 o'clock. So what do you do after 3 o'clock? Everything's not on a schedule. Everything's not boom, boom, boom laid out for you. What do you do?
Actually, for me, it was because playing football, my day was scheduled from 7 o'clock when I got there till about 6 o'clock when I left the school.
What about when you left school altogether? You're no longer on a schedule. You've been on a schedule for, 13 years, including kindergarten, and 2 more years if you had preschool. 15 years worth of schedule. And now you decide, I'm not going to college, I'm going to work. Well, wait a minute. Let me have a good summer. Then I'll go to work. Now everything's not scheduled for you. Now you're, quote unquote, an adult. And you've got to figure out your own schedule. That takes a minute.
Yeah.
It takes a minute to figure that deal out. How many times do I push the snooze button? Should I go to work today? Well, if you want a paycheck, you will. Should I hit the snooze button 3 times? Mine has 8. I don't know what most people's have. Now you got to figure out your own schedule. If you don't have, maybe, some 18-year-olds that move out of their house, move into an apartment or something when they're young, and Lord, I couldn't have done that. But
some were thrown out of the house.
some were thrown out, yeah. And so you got to make decisions quickly. Some kids decide to go to the military, and everything is scheduled for you again, like it was the first 13 to 15 years of your school career.
Yeah, but that...
And now it's even a harder line. You don't stroll into class 3 minutes late and everything's cool in the military.
No.
Now you're going to get screamed at, made fun of. It's pretty
You're
rough
gonna have
stuff.
physical punishment.
It's going to be not going to be a lot of fun.
Nope.
So that will teach you to handle your time correctly, I'm guessing. And you'll probably carry that with you the rest of your life, I'm guessing.
You would hope.
So as a young guy, we're guys, as a young guy out there trying to figure out how to handle my time correctly, how does that look like? I mean, what should guys, and I guess girls same way, what should they be leaning toward to help them out with time? What should they be looking to? I would look for somebody older, somebody that I look at and, man, that guy's got it all together. He knows how to handle his time. He's always on. He's work on time. When we go out to dinner, he's on time. We go to functions, he's on time. What's he doing? He always seems like he's got it together. May not, but at least he looks that way. That's what I would look for. Even at my age, I'm not young, but I look toward people that I could learn from. And you can learn. You don't have to be older than me for me to learn from you. You can be lots younger. There's things I've learned from young people.
I know you've learned a lot from me.
I've learned a lot from you. I have. And so in order for us to grow as people, we need to be looking around and asking questions, questioning, as we was talking about earlier today, questioning things that possibly you shouldn't be questioning. And the question I asked you earlier, is there such thing as time? Is that a real thing? Just a question.
Gives you something to think about.
Time. Oh, that's sign. Never mind. That's different. time, everywhere time. Chris, what you got?
I think we've about hit everything I can think about right now.
Time management.
I think we've managed to talk about this quite a bit. So I'd say let's end it here, and we'll come back again next week and
Talk about something else.
have another topic. What number should they text you with the word time?
615-330-3644. Text the word time.
And maybe they can send us a topic that we can
Send me a topic, we'll use it.
We will try to use it.
We will use it.
We will try to use it.
We will use it.
Well, then, what about every time I send you something?
It's too many. When you send me one, we always use it. You send me 7, I can't pick one. Anyway,
You can pick one.
615-330-3644.
We'll try to do this again another time.
Yes, we will.
Have a good one.
See ya.